Stop trying to pivot and move. We're not moving along. We're going to get on the same page. That's what's going to happen here.
I feel like some of the things that I was about to say would have cleared up some of the confusion that you're experiencing right now. So do you mind if I just finish
I don't
what I
think
was
I'm the one
going to say?
experiencing any confusion. I think you didn't read this case. I'm going to make a new claim. I think you didn't read this case. I think you're lying about having read it.
Okay, so
We live in a
what
society
element?
framed by the Constitution, and I think
I
he's
would
tearing
love
it
to
down.
debate this with you. I would love to debate this with you. So what elements of the Constitution is Trump destroying? Could you give me one?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about the Bill of Rights, he's annihilating due process every day.
Okay,
Freedom of speech kind of going out the
let's
window.
okay. I would love to argue. I would love to discuss that with you. The claim that he's destroying due process. So, what is the process that is due to someone who is not supposed to be in our country to begin with, who skipped the process coming in? What process is due to them? Could you explain that?
Yes, notice and ability to challenge.
You said notice and ability to challenge.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the
Okay.
notice requirement being, hey, we're going to deport you, and the ability to challenge being, hey, I don't agree with your logic or your reasoning of why you're deporting me. I'm going to fight back on that.
Okay. Okay. So the when you say due process, that means the process that is due. And the process that is due to a person who came in to our country illegally and skipped due process coming in, the actual due process that they're supposed to do at a port of entry to come into the country legally, is that if you skip due process coming in, then you don't get it coming out. So the only thing that ICE agents need to do to give you your due process is to identify whether or not you are a citizen, and that's very easy to do. The idea that we can't distinguish between an illegal immigrant who just walked across the border yesterday from a 57-year-old retiree in Ohio, it's very easy, because if you are an actual American citizen, you're in like 20 different databases. Okay, so it's very easy to determine your citizenship or not. We don't need a 2-year court battle to determine someone's citizenship. That's ridiculous. So
Okay, whose job is it to interpret the Constitution?
the courts, they're
Okay.
supposed to interpret the
Yeah,
Constitution,
Supreme
the
Court.
judicial branch. Yeah.
Yes, it is the impetus of the Supreme Court to determine what the law is. Okay, and so if your argument is that if your claim is that what I laid out for what due process for in an immigration context is wrong, I'm just taking that straight from the Supreme Court. Then if your argument is that the Supreme Court is wrong and Trump is right, then you've circled back around to proving my point. Because part of destroying the Constitution would be to usurp power from the other branches of government, the Article 1 and Article 3 branches of government. And so if you're saying Trump actually determines what the law is, well, that's not an Article 2 power, that's an Article 3 powers. But if you think that Trump has that power, then he's destroying the constitutional order, and you've proven my point.
Okay, well, again, Trump has not usurped power that's allocated to other branches. Trump is performing his duties that he is constitutionally mandated to perform, which is to protect our country from foreign invaders. He's the head of the executive branch, so he is in charge of enforcing the law. If you don't agree with the law and you don't like it, okay, then that's what the legislature is for. Take up your concerns with the legislature, but the judges and the courts do not have the authority to say the laws do not apply to these people. The only way for them to do that is to change the law, and that is not the duty of the judicial branch of government. And so they are actually the ones who are usurping their constitutional powers. So if they want to change the law to say that anyone can just sashay across the border and they automatically have constitutional rights, okay, that's fine. Take it up with the legislature. You're going to need a constitutional amendment to do it, and good luck. You're going to need 2/3 of states to do that. So, good luck getting fucking Texas on board with that, or Arizona, or any of these other states that are being overrun with criminal migrants and illegal aliens.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got it. You're rambling. All right. Listen, we're gonna have to narrow this. This isn't gonna go anywhere if we don't narrow. All right. Let's narrow down to just the Alien Enemies Act deportations. Okay.
Okay.
So you have a law that Congress passed that gives the president broad authority when it comes to immigration. Built within that, there's a couple statutory requirements. Trump met some of the statutory requirements. But given that it is a law that gives the president the power, a law cannot be violative of the Constitution, right? Meaning, rights granted by the Constitution can't be deleted by the powers granted to the president by a law. So Trump uses this law, the authorities granted by it, to deport a whole bunch of people, a couple of hundred, without due process. They sue. That makes its way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says, hey, you can use these broad deportation powers under this law. They never stated that in the affirmative, but they didn't deny it either. So we'll take that as true. Then you can use these powers, but you cannot void the Constitution while you're at it. And they say exactly what I told you right at the beginning. What I told you, they say you must give these people notice that they're going to be deported and a chance to file a habeas claim against their deportation. And then your argument is that is. I want to try to get this right, so correct me if I'm wrong. Your argument for why that's actually not the Supreme Court telling Trump that he's violating the Constitution. That is the Supreme Court trying to change the law? Is that what you're saying?
No, the claim that you're making is that the courts have the ability to usurp the executive branch. And what I am saying is that the executive branch has the authority to enforce immigration law, and the only way that the only way for that to change is for the legislature to step in and change immigration law. The courts do not have the ability to come in and say, okay, the laws do not actually apply to these people, right? Kilmar Abrego Garcia, right, who was in fact an MS-13 gang member, okay, who was in fact caught with he was gang affiliated. It's an absolute fact. It's not up for debate. Okay.
I mean, it is up for debate because it's not proven, but sure, go ahead.
No. Well, again, he was wearing a Chicago Bulls jersey with money signs blocking out the eyes, which is a well-known symbol that signifies gang affiliation, specifically with Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Okay, that is an absolute fact. Absolutely 100%. It is not in dispute. Okay, and
well, you can go back. I'm disputing it right now.
You can look back in 2019 and you can find his convictions. Okay, he was tried and convicted for domestic violence against his then wife. Okay, you can read the police report. This is not the type of person that they want in our country. As Trump said, they are not sending their best. And that is being
do you know what the definition of convicted is?
Yes, I do know what the definition of convicted is. It means that you went to court, you were tried by a jury of your peers, and they returned guilty verdicts on all of the crimes that you were charged with, and that's what occurred in his case.
Can you give me the case number?
Well, not off the top of my head, but it did happen. I'm not making it up. So.
Well, you are making it up. His wife dropped the charges. She did.
She didn't.
She filed. She requested a restraining order. She was granted it and then dropped it.
No, he didn't. No, that is not the case. But we can disagree.
Hold on. No, we can't disagree because I can't. People get mad at me for letting guests come up and lie. So I'm going to take that to heart.
Well, again, I'm not lying.
Well, you are lying. So I'm going to need some evidence. I'm going to need you to direct me to a source where we can prove that claim, or that's going to be the end of the conversation.
Well, I'm on mobile right now, so I don't have the ability to Google things. But if you Google Kilmar Abrego Garcia, I believe that he was convicted. I want to say it was Georgia, but you can look it up. Felony convictions are public records, so you can go out and find the case number and everything. I don't know it off the top of my head, but what you're referring to is about his wife dropping the charges. There were charges that he was convicted of, and others that they weren't able to prove. And I believe that she withdrew her complaint on some of them. But he was absolutely, and he was actually convicted of a slew of crimes going back to like 2004. I mean, he had come across the border illegally at least 10 to 15 times from my understanding. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not making it up again. So,
okay. You're making it up, but sure.
I forgot what we were originally trying to discuss.
Okay. I'll bring you back on topic. Just to be clear for chat, under no circumstances can he prove anything he just said. Okay. He did make half that shit up. Well, 90. He made up 90% of it. All right. Anyway, so what we were originally talking about was Trump usurping power from other branches. Okay. So it is the impetus of the Supreme Court to check the president when they are violating the Constitution. That is what happened in the JGG case, the Alien Enemies Act deportations. That case went to the Supreme Court. They told the president, they told Trump that he was in violation of the Constitution. And you take that as the Supreme Court stealing Article 2 powers. What
I'm saying is that the only way for them to arrive at that ruling is to change the law. They cannot say that a law does not apply to a certain class of people. That they do not have the authority to do. And so here's the thing.
I got you.
Here's the
So you
thing.
didn't.
When
So
you
you
guys
didn't
are
read that
hang
decision,
on,
right? You didn't read
no,
that
no,
decision
no,
at
no, no.
all.
Hang on,
Yes or no?
hang
Did
on.
you read that decision?
Yes, I did read the decision.
So
So
what do you think that decision was? What did they decide?
well, their decision was that Trump was in violation of the law. I disagree with that decision, and as did Trump, which is why he did not abide by that decision, and he shouldn't have, right? Because they didn't have any authority to issue the ruling that they were ruling. But
That's hold on. I'm not. We're not going to move on until you are correct, or until we get on the same basis of facts. Their decision was not that he was in violation of the law. To be clear, when you say the law, what are you talking about? When you say he was found to be in violation of the law, what do you think that means to you? What does it mean to you? Sorry.
well, that he didn't abide by the right, I guess, policies and procedures that are outlined in immigration law that kind of govern that. That's my understanding of it. But
So
my whole
you read the case, and yet you have the most vague and incorrect opinion, or interpretation of what the case decided
well, it's either
that I've
vague or
ever
it's
heard in my
incorrect.
life.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other.
Well,
So you got to pick one.
you're speaking in broad generalities, and also you're wrong. So it's actually not one or the other. You're being very broad and very vague about it, but even your broad vague claims are wrong. So
Well, again, my claims are not incorrect, and my whole point with the judicial branch
so your
here's the
claims are
thing.
correct. Stop trying to pivot and move. We're not moving along. We're gonna get on the same page. That's what's gonna happen here. We're gonna get on the same page.
Well,
What?
I didn't get a chance to finish what originally took us off on this tangent. I didn't. I feel like some of the things that I was about to say would have cleared up some of the confusion that you're experiencing right now. So, do you mind if I just
I
finish
don't
what I
think
was
I'm the
going
one
to say?
experiencing any confusion. I think you didn't read this case. I'm going to make a new claim. I think you didn't read this case. I think you're lying about having read it.
Well, again, I did,
Okay,
and
so what
here's the
did they
thing.
decide? What was the decision?
There's some no there's some context that you need to be aware of, but before we go into that,
Okay, go
okay.
ahead. What's the context?
So when people refer to checks and balances, I've heard a lot about checks and balances, right, between the different branches of government, and I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that. That's a pillar of our constitutional republic, and so I do think that the checks and balances process is very important. But here's the thing: the only check against a rogue judiciary, a judiciary that is issuing rulings that are outside of the authority that they've been granted constitutionally, is for the other branches of government to simply ignore those rulings. And so when a court loses legitimacy, right, and the judiciary is in the well, they already have destroyed their legitimacy by trying to issue these blanket bans and strike down everything that Donald Trump. Think about all of the things, all of the mandates that they've tried to issue over just the last 4 months. They've tried to say that Donald Trump does not have the authority to edit websites that are hosted by the federal government. They're saying that he doesn't have the authority to issue to determine who is fit to serve in the armed forces.
Thanks, Brandon. What do you think? I believe that Trump is destroying the constitutional order. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely not, man. We're too resilient of a country. For you to have that up there is actually quite ridiculous.
Why?
Because we have, like I said, we're too resilient of a country, man. I mean,
What does
think
that
about what
What
you
does
got
that
up
mean to
there.
you?
You think one man can take down the Constitution? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. How
How
do you
can
define
one man take down
resiliency?
the Constitution?
Well, you said we're too resilient of a country. I want to know what you mean by that, because to me that doesn't mean a whole lot. Can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah, 250 years we've made it this far. We've had a lot of fucked up people in office. 250 years. That's resilience, if you ask me. Not to
Okay. Just
mention,
because something's never happened
the
before.
different levels of government we have, the different checks and balances that we have, which you're actually seeing in action. And the fact that you're seeing all that in action should show you that the country's too resilient for the the Constitution to be destroyed.
Uh huh.
It's just clickbait.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to summarize what you're saying. You tell me if I'm on the right track. Okay. So what you're saying is because we've been around for 250 years and the Constitution's never been destroyed before, can't happen. Because it hasn't happened yet, it can never happen. Is that kind of where you're going, or maybe some
I
version of
didn't
that?
say I didn't say it could never happen, but it's currently not happening.
Okay.
So show me your proof that it's happening. Show
Sure,
me your proof where the checks and balances are not in action.
sure. Trump ignoring ignoring court orders is a good example of checks and balances not working.
And which court order is that? Your buddy Kilbar Abrego, whatever his name is, Garcia.
That's one. That's one that he's pretty much just completely ignored. Yeah.
So has he not facilitated?
No, I don't think he's
What
done
is he?
anything.
What did he ignore about the order?
Well, to facilitate something. People use this phrase a lot. Facilitate is an active verb, right? Which I mean, I don't love the phrasing there, but it is true. Facilitate can't mean do nothing. That can't be the answer. It's not do nothing. It's do something. And I think that he has done nothing.
So facilitate is somewhat after the fact. If you're talking about facilitate, that doesn't mean to engage. That doesn't mean to start. That means to simply make something easier. You're aware of that, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they've offered an airplane if the uh, El Salvador government decides to send him back for whatever reason, which they never will. And that's the end of that. I mean, they've done their job. They said they'll facilitate. They'll
Right.
have a plane ready to go.
Right. Can you
So that's
tell
going to
me
tear the
can you tell me
that's
what
going to
the
tear down the
actual
Constitution.
can you tell me what the
How is that going to
actual
tear down the
order was?
Constitution?
Can you tell me what the order was?
The order? Which order?
In relation
Like what
to
part? What
Gilmar
part?
Garcia. What did the court order? What did they say?
They said that he was improperly sent to El Salvador, and that
No, I'm sorry. That
uh,
you're talking about like
he
the
needs
decision.
to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he was improperly sent to El Salvador,
Yeah.
and he needs to facilitate the return,
Okay.
which he has kept up. That doesn't mean you need to return him. That doesn't mean you need to go get him. That doesn't mean any of that. That means facilitate. Quite literally, what it means is
Right.
to make something easier. He
Right.
is not a citizen in the United States. We have no precedent to go take a citizen from another country, no matter what.
Okay.
So
So then I would
the
just
argument's
say.
really moot.
So then I would just say, um, you're wrong about what the order is.
Okay. What's the order say?
So the order actually never, at no point in the order does it ever actually say that he has to be returned to the United States. Now there is an implication of that. It does say that it does say to give him the rights and treat him as he would have been treated had he not been illegally deported. So I mean, if you want to read into that and you want to read that as, oh, we'll bring him back to the U.S. and then give him a hearing, I guess you could do that. You could read into it that way if you want. But the order is actually just to now after the Supreme Court weighed in, the amended order as given by Judge Zennis was to facilitate his release from custody. So if we're gonna take the definition of facilitate to mean to make easier, what Trump would need to do, or the administration as a whole would need to do, would be to make it easier for Kilmar to get out of CCOT. Now, I actually don't. I think he's been transferred out of CCOT now. They're not holding him there.
Yeah, he's not in CCOT.
But to they would need to help do something to make it easier for him to be released from custodial, or the custodial control of El Salvador. Whatever prison they moved him to, right? Get him out of there. And so then, taking all that, when we have quotes of Trump in interviews saying that, I forget who it was that was interviewing him, talking about, someone asked him in a one-on-one interview about getting, Kilmar back. And he said, yeah, I mean, I could pick up, the interviewer asked him, like, couldn't you just like call, El Salvador and get him back? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I could make one phone call right now and we'd have him back. So for that admission to be on the record of like Trump is admitting, and he's well aware that he could just make a phone call and have the guy released from custody. And then we have an order telling him to get him released from custody or facilitate that happen. We take those two things and we say, okay, so you could get him out, and then you've been ordered to help get him out, and you haven't. Okay, so you're in violation of a court order. Got it.
Yeah, I just disagree with you, man, about the interpretation.
Interpretation of what?
I feel like he is doing what he's supposed to do, Trump.
Okay, why do you think that? Based on like what I just laid out. I guess just counter what I just laid out. Like tell me that whole explanation I
again,
just laid out. Tell me
because
where I'm wrong.
well, it's not that you're wrong. That's your interpretation. Again, he's said that he would offer an airplane. I mean, again, he has no means to go over there and get him to bring him back for what? To deport him again? I mean, the
What would be the
problem lies
purpose?
that he
What would be the
got
purpose of
sent
the
to El
airplane?
Salvador where he was not supposed to go.
What would be the purpose of the plane?
Well, what do planes do?
I'm asking. Planes fly. I'm trying to get you to
Right,
hone in on
right.
the key detail. I think
They
you're
carry
overlooking.
people and and
Yeah,
and
I,
and
I think
stuff.
I think
Well,
you're
so what are you
overlooking
asking that question for? Just make your
because
point.
I
There's
think
no
you're
need for a
overlooking.
senseless
I think
question.
you're like either on purpose
What do
or
planes do?
I think on purpose
What
or
do planes do? What
accidentally
do planes
you're
do?
ignoring the
Like, just
point.
make your point. Okay,
Are you
by
done?
asking the question, what do planes do, is ignoring your point that you're trying to make. So have a little higher level of debate style and just make your point.
Okay, here's my point. I think you're honed in on the concept of bringing him home. You brought up the fact that he offered a plane. Well, the plane would be to bring him back to the United States. But at no point in the order does it actually say you must return him to the U.S. Now, you again, as I said, you could read that in to what else is in the order. You could say, well, what they're saying is bring him the fuck back. Okay, but that's not in the order explicitly. What it is explicitly in the order is to facilitate his release from custody. So the plane doesn't actually, your argument for why he is following the order is because he offered a plane. But the plane isn't going towards actually, staying within the bounds of the order at all. The plane is to help achieve something that was actually not even really explicitly ordered. But what was explicitly ordered, he's done absolutely nothing to make that happen. And he's admitted on the record that he 100% could, and he knows he could. He knows he could do it. One phone call and the guy's out of custody. Boom, got him. That would be the order followed. Boom, done. And this whole conversation dies right there on the spot. It's like, okay, well, he did exactly what he's supposed to do. We're good. But he won't. And
Well,
why?
so when the order it says uh, that he should be released from custody and his case would have been handled the way it would have been handled if he had not been sent to El Salvador.
Okay.
That implies if the case to be handled, it's not going to be handled in El Salvador, is it? Where's it going to be handled? In the United States. That's where it's going to be handled, correct?
Kelton, do you know that?
Hold
Kelton, do
on,
you
hold on,
know
just
that?
answer me.
Kelton, do you
Hold
know
on,
that
just
that's
answer me.
exactly what I said? Do you know that that's exactly what I said?
His case,
Kelton, do you know that that's
if his
exactly what I said?
case-
Yes or no, Kelton? Do you know that that is what you just described is exactly what I said?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'm trying to make the point that you're trying to say, oh, they didn't directly say come back to the United States. So the plane is actually of no significance. To be handled is to be handled in the United States. Therefore, the plane is of significance, correct?
Kelton, why do you disagree with me
Yes.
and then
Why can't you
why do
answer a
you
question,
disagree
bro?
with me and then prove my
Why
point? Why
can't
do you
you
disagree with
answer
me
a
and then prove my
question, bro?
point? Why do you disagree with me and then prove my point?
Why can't you answer a simple
Why
question?
can't you just like take what I'm saying in good faith? Why are you being so bad faith right now?
Bro, what are you even talking about? Bad faith.
I said it was never explicitly stated in the order to return him to the US. But because
It
they said,
is.
but no, it's not. They didn't say bring him back to the US. They said handle his case the way it would have been had he not been erroneously deported or illegally
Which
deported.
means in
And
the
then,
United States.
yes, and I said word for word, I said, now you can take that to mean bring him back because
Oh,
had
I
he
didn't
not
hear
been
that part. I apologize.
Okay.
I didn't hear you say that.
All right. Anyway, yes. So he was there. They didn't say bring him back to the U.S. They said handle the case how it would have been handled, which you can take to me and bring him back to the U.S. and then give him a whole hearing. But the plane goes to that part of the order. What is he doing to facilitate his release from custody? That's what I'm trying to drive in and drive home to you. So we have a man who knows he could make one phone call and have him released, but refuses to make that one phone call. You have an order telling him to do such, to basically do exactly that. Like, do what you can do to help this process along, help get him out of jail over there.
I believe in the Oval Office, he said to the president himself, or whatever they call him, he said it to himself. He could bring him if he wanted to. The president said, why would we bring him? Did that not occur in the Oval Office?
Yeah, Bukele said there's no way I'm letting him out.
Exactly.
So then
So
how
that's
come?
Trump
So
facilitating right there,
so then
right
how
on
come a
live
month
television.
later? Wait. So then if
He
if that's your claim,
facilitated on live TV,
yeah, if
bro.
that's your claim, I have to ask you. It would be irresponsible for me to not ask you. Do you think Trump is a delusional liar?
No, I don't think he's a delusional liar. I
So then
think he
how come
sensationalizes
how come a
a little too
month?
much for me.
So then how come a month after that, exactly what you're talking about, that conversation with Bukele in the Oval Office, how come like a month later in an interview he said I can make one phone call and have him released? Bukele told him, and there's no way I'm going to release this guy. Why does Trump think he can make a phone call and have him released? Why does he think that?
Well, because he probably could.
Okay. So then we've just looped back around to my argument again, right?
I mean, not really, man. I mean,
He could make the
it's
phone call. He could get the guy
it's a
released.
done deal.
He was told to,
He
and
did
now he
facilitate.
refuses.
He did facilitate in the Oval Office. He decided the old boy said no. He offered a plane. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what else you want.
To the best of your knowledge,
You like that guy, Bringo? You like
I like the Fifth Amendment. To the best of your knowledge, has Trump ever asked, like, and when I say asked, you know what I mean by, yeah, like, surely I don't have to explain to you what asked means. Has he ever asked Bukele to let him go? Has he ever said, hey, look, man, can you let him go, please? Has that ever happened?
No. Like he should not. I mean, I agree with that.
Okay.
He shouldn't ask to let him go. Get him out of here. He's a part of a T group. He was in a gang.
So he should violate his SCOTUS order.
He's a wife beater. He's a wife beater.
So he should violate an order.
We don't need violent criminals from other countries that are now labeled T groups.
I don't get why you're here then. I don't get why you even bothered requesting to come up. So your argument, you're trying to argue why
Are you arguing for them?
Well, you're trying to argue. You're trying to argue why he didn't violate an order, but then at the end of the conversation, you just go, "Yeah, but I think he should." I mean, that's not.
I didn't come up just to talk about that. You kind of brought that up.
Okay, so then you think he should violate Supreme Court orders if it's something you'd agree with, you think he should just violate them?
Well, he's not violating it, so.
Well, but you said you think he should. Like, if the Supreme Court ordered him, like, "Hey, all we require of you, this is our order. All we want from you is to just ask Bukele if he will release the guy. That's all we want. Just if you ask."
No, that would be different. I think Trump would do that.
Well, you're just saying you said he shouldn't.
No, he doesn't need to be proactive and ask. Absolutely not. Why would he do that?
So you think right now
he should help out Garcia,
so you think right now he shouldn't ask, but then if the
member?
Supreme Court told him to, then he should ask. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you agree?
I think he should ask now.
You think he needs to be proactive for Garcia?
Well, he was ordered to facilitate his release from custody.
Well, that wasn't the answer. I need an answer. Do you think he needs to be proactive for Garcia's sake?
It wouldn't be for Garcia's sake. It would be to stay in line with an order.
I don't know, man. I disagree with you. I mean, that's still a non-answer, which is very telling.
It's not a non-answer. It's absolutely not a non-answer. He should follow this. He should follow the order.
Yeah, it's an answer. You're right. It is an answer.
To facilitate his release from custody would be to make it easier for him to be released. The best example of making it easier for a guy to be released.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you if he should be being proactive to try and get Abrego out of there.
Should he be proactive? Yes, that was the order, is to help get him out.
The order is to facilitate if they release him.
But no, to facilitate his, not if they release him. No.
Do you know what proactive means?
No. Now are you illiterate? Can you read? It's not to facilitate. It is not to facilitate if they release him. It's to facilitate his release.
The release.
Yeah. Make it easier for him to be released.
I'll be right back. Hold on a second.
You won't be right back.